Hello! I have to get Brittany on here, and then we are going to be going live and talking everything SEO, which I'm really excited about. Doesn't have to be this thing that is so confusing. There she is. Hi, Brittany. Let's see if we can get her on here. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. Did I get you, Miss Brittany? I said accept.
Oh, yeah.
Like, where did it go? I haven't done this in forever.
Oh my gosh, I know. And it feels like every other week Facebook and Instagram are changing things. By the way, if you're watching and you feel that way, let us know in the comments, because I know it can't just be me. I'm like scouring the internet all the time trying to figure out what the heck they're doing this week.
I know, right? Facebook, Instagram, TPT, everybody's changing everything, huh?
Yeah, constantly. And I think that's one of the reasons why SEO is so important to know, because SEO in a way is pretty timeless, right? I mean, like there are some things that change per platform, like obviously algorithms change, but SEO as far as like the practice is pretty timeless. So I'm really excited we're going to be talking about this.
I know, and it's one of those things, it's like, it gets thrown around, and I remember just even starting out, I was like, okay, what is that again? Like, what am I doing? How do I do that? And that can be so hard. So you actually recently transitioned, so you're outside of the classroom now.
Yes, which is crazy. I swear, like sorry, I'm still trying to figure out why it's didn't, okay. Yeah, so I left in May.
Wow.
And I still can't even believe that sometimes. Like when I see that, I'm just like, wow, I can't believe like I did it. I don't know if it's going to be a forever thing, right? I'm always like, never say never, but pretty sure, like 99% sure this is a permanent deal. Yeah.
What is it that you're doing now? Because you were teaching,
So,
I work math, so that's how we know each other.
yeah. Well, I do a lot of things. Here, I'm gonna turn this up just so I can hear you a little better. I do a lot of things, but I'm doing the social media managing thing pretty much full time. But when I say full time, I mean full time like 20, 25 hours a week. And then like before that, because I've been blogging and doing this stuff since 2018.
Nice.
So I originally started with a travel blog, and that was how I got into Facebook groups. I built a pretty profitable business over there, and then kind of drifted into the TPT world and was like, oh, I think I can make this work over here. So that's kind of the short version of why I started doing this for people. But now it's really grown into just social media strategy for TPT sellers anyway. So yeah, it's good stuff.
The SEO and everything. And so you're like the guru, right? You're SEO guru for Instagram, especially, and Facebook.
Oh, I don't know if I'd say guru, but oh, hey, Jackie. Good to see you, Jackie. I wouldn't say that I'm a guru. I feel like I'm learning things all the time and sharing. But I think I think we're actually moving away from that, like having to follow experts, right? Because like everybody has something to share, and I think that like if someone is really serious about their craft, they're going to be learning and growing all the time. You know what I mean? So that's what I hope to share, is like, this is what's working for me right now. This is what I've done to find success for other people, and if I can help other people doing that, that's great.
Yeah, like just even knowing like where on Instagram to put certain things, and even to know like, so if I'm trying to reach teachers, and specifically teachers related to math workshop, or related to the science of reading, that kind of stuff, like I need to be using those words in what I'm posting, and not just what I'm posting, but also like in my the bio at the top and all that kind of stuff too, to get so that way Instagram knows who the heck I am, and they're not sending people that want, I don't know,
Even even the actual video and audio. So I don't know this for sure 100% yet, but I think just based off what I've seen, that even the words you say in your reels, like not the actual captions themselves, but I think they're actually picking up some of the like the transcript version of the audio, which would make sense, because for accessibility, like we have alt text, they're kind of coming up with like a description for the video and the audio. So that's why even just saying the words, which sounds weird, but that's why you'll hear me say like, oh yeah, social media strategist, social media manager, because I want to be able to get picked up for those things. And I definitely know that SEO wise, and we might even talk about this in a bit, that it's your bio is picked up. So whatever you have like in your bio, that part's really, really important. And that's something I'm always tweaking. Like if you go and look at mine today, it's probably going to say something different in 2 days. So I'm going to go in and mess with it a little bit.
Yeah, that was something I was on Teachers Pay Teachers. Is, I mean, I know it's kind of hard now to search, which if you are a seller on Teachers Pay Teachers, like they have that, they're testing this new feature where you can like see where you're turning up in search, because that was a big concern. Now you can't like necessarily search because there's 500 different things that are going to separate, you know, you from, you know, whether you search for me, like my product, or, you know, somebody else does. It really depends on a lot of that. But even just on my thumbnails, I was playing around with it, and I was like looking in. So I went to TPT and I went to the search and I typed in, it was 13 colonies, and I typed in 13 colonies and I saw like what came up. It wasn't a lot. And so then I went on to just like Google what is coming up when I type in 13 colonies, and one of them was task cards. And I was like, ooh, that's what one of my thumbnails is. So I'm going to rename that, you know, 13 dash colonies dash task dash cards, you know, and that's the file name. So now when somebody goes on to, whether it's Teachers Pay Teachers or Google, and types it, like now my thumbnail, boom, is going to pop up too. And that's going to drive them to that thing, you know. Is that,
Yeah. And
like,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask, like you're saying, like it's picking it up even in what you're saying, right? Like those keywords and things.
Yeah, and I don't know 100%. I'm just fairly certain, because when I actually went to a WordPress conference a few years ago, because again, I was doing websites before I did anything else. And when I went to that WordPress meetup conference thing, this was a very new technology back in like 2018 or 19, which that wasn't that long ago, but in internet years, it feels like for forever, because so much has changed since then. I mean, even just COVID, right? Like that was a completely disrupted everything. But even then, they were starting to do that, like audio to speech, audio to text, transcription technology was getting really big. So even like now, more so, especially with social media. So I would say definitely use the words out loud in any kind of short form video you have. And alt text too. Like a lot of people miss that. Even on Instagram, I don't know if you guys know, you can actually put alt text in your images. So like when you're posting in a carousel or a single like image post, you can go in and add that. And that's a thing too that I just encourage people, because like even a year and a half ago, I would say I was still very new to Instagram. Like I knew how to use it as a user, but I was still very new to using it as a marketer, or, you know, for marketing. And so my first order of business I tell people is just learn the features, because a lot of times you'll see someone like a guru, again, self-proclaimed guru, quotes. I don't even like using that word, but there's someone who says that. They'll say, like, here, 5 hacks to grow your following on Instagram. And all they're doing is showing you how to use the features, if you pay attention to what they're doing. So I would say use the features and use those things to be able to optimize your content for the words that you want to rank for. And I would say, like for that task card example for 13 colonies, 2 things to consider. 1, you want to spell out 13, I would say, and use the number alternatively, because people are searching different ways. Some are searching 1-3 colonies, right? Some are searching the word 13. And I would also say, having that come up as an answer to the problem that you're talking about in your content. So like, I'm trying to think of an example I had. So I just made a reel for a client where I was talking about imperialism in Africa. She's a social studies teacher. And so she creates that kind of content. And so I said, did you know that, or I think I put the hook, because you talk about fold, we'll talk about it in a second. The hook was like, your map of Africa is wrong. And so people are like, what? That makes someone stop the scroll and be like, what's that about, right? So on the actual image, it's like you show that Africa is much smaller than it actually is. It shows like comparing maps. And her product is an accurate map representation of the regions and the countries of Africa. So thinking about like, okay, if your answer is task cards, what could you do in the reel that will lead to that, that will get them to stop the scroll? And how can you have that above the fold? Because that content above the fold is going to be the most sought after, but then it's also most likely to get indexed by Google, like the first part. And then also, if you have any hashtags, I mean, you can use them for now. Hashtags are kind of in and out, but.
Yeah, I know you keep it like the fold, like so on TPT, like it's the first 150 words. What is it on Instagram?
You know, I've played with it. I don't know if it's an actual character amount, because I think it's lines, because I've played with it a little bit and to see like how much I could fit in there. And if someone else might know this and be like, oh, Brittany, how do you not know this? It's this many characters. If so, that's fine. Come tell me. But I've played with it, and it seems more about like how many lines of text there are. So I'll usually do like 1 line of text, usually 1 sentence, and the emoji. Is there somebody over there? Because I feel like...
No, it's fine. I was gonna say, like, when they have like a break, like our wonderful custodian, Mr. Willie, is in the trash and stuff, because I'm still at school, because I still teach 3rd grade full time.
Oh,
so.
yeah. Hey, that's awesome. I love 3rd grade. They're like I think that's my favorite age, honestly. They're the best to
Yeah.
teach.
I know. I wanted to say, like, because when I heard him next door, and I was like, oh, just, it'll be a minute. Sorry. Know how it goes. I know, because that's kind of like where I'm still teaching third grade. I mean, eventually, like, I would like to get transition out of classroom, only because I have, recently just had another daughter, and I would like to be able to spend more time with her. And so, like, that's why I have started doing kind of more on the other side of it, of like looking at the data and like helping teachers dive into their data and what their data is showing them. And then how do you use things like the images, those quality images in your, just your cover, to get people to even stop and say, like, I want to look at that, and do it deeper. And so anyway, sorry, that was like a tangent. I got thrown off by the trash.
No, it's okay. I think it's good for people to hear why. And also, the fun thing that people will hopefully hear is that what you're doing on TPT is very, very similar to what you do on Instagram. So if you look at TPT as far as the funnel, like a product listing, so if somebody searches a term, they scroll through the results, they see, usually it's a cover that catches their eye, right? They stop, they look at the title. Is that what I need? Yes. They're making these really quick decisions, right? They see the snippet, which on Instagram, a post would be, we'd call that above the fold, right? That first line that makes you kind of want to read the caption. Same thing. They click on that. They look at the price, they look at a couple other things. They're probably not going to read your description. I'm sorry. Most of them don't, but it's still good.
Or scan it. So use those bold words like in your description, and that's where your keywords are going to like drive people that way, right? To that, like, that's the importance of that.
Yeah. So I always write, like, I always think about this too. I always write these lengthy, heartfelt captions on Instagram, and I'm like, I know not everybody's going to read these. Most likely, that's just not how it is. So it's good, though, to have the keywords in there, though, so Instagram figures out what it's about. It's the same exact thing as on your product descriptions, using those keywords. And you think about, like, the process there. That snippet on your TPT listing is there to get you to click on the resource, right? It's the same exact thing with an Instagram caption, because think about how people, it's so quick, right? Especially with Reels, you're flicking. Sometimes you don't even get a whole second to be able to get them to stop. But the caption line helps, and usually that comes after they read the content, or watch the video, or if it's a carousel post, after they look at the image. So you can kind of think about, like, where they're going on this journey. So what can you write in the caption that will support the actual post? Because if they read that, that's when someone usually decides that they're going to take a further action, like share the post, comment below, follow you. Sometimes people will follow you from the actual video or carousel itself, but really, they usually, like, that's the last touch point with you, is like going to the caption. So I would say make sure you have a really catchy hook as far as that first line above the fold, and then also put value in the caption that's not in the post itself. So, like, give extra reason for them to go and click below there.
To read into it and to look more into it. I mean, I know, like, one of the things that I've been focusing on is I have like a checklist. So like what are those keywords that, like, for Instagram, that I need to make sure that I'm using all the time, just so that way Instagram knows who to, like, show, because I need to show up for people, because people are out there and they need, like, those resources, whether in the classroom they want those resources, but they can't necessarily find them. And now with the changes to the TPT algorithm, like, who knows if they're finding what they actually need, right? And so having, like, that checklist of, like, saying, like, this is this thing, like, I have that checklist that I'm checking off as I do it. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm
No, it's okay. Honestly, you just gave me a freebie idea, because I was like, I was thinking about how a post is kind of like, there's an anatomy, right? There's, like, when you look at, like, a skeleton, you're like, there's the skull, there's the this. I'm like, oh, I could do that for a post, because maybe that would be helpful to have some kind of checklist or something.
Yeah, and that's for, like, TPT listings, is I have one in my profile right now, and it is that, like, just checklist of all the things to make sure that you're optimizing your listing, so that way when it does show, that's that cover, like, here's what your cover needs, and it links back to Teachers Pay Teachers and, like, their practices of what they're optimizing. They say they have 500 things, but obviously your cover, like you said, is going to be that first thing that really gets somebody to check it out and decide whether or not they want to do it. And so one of the things I put in there was the keyword checklist. So you could type in, like, your keywords that you want to use, and then within that, as you use it, like, click it, check it off. I built it in Trello. I love Trello.
Yeah, Trello, I'm obsessed. By the way, if you're coming on new, I'd love for you to say hi in the comments, and also let us know what questions you have about SEO, either for TPT listings themselves, TPT on Instagram. And what we were kind of just saying was we were paralleling how there's a funnel in every single Instagram post, just like there is in a TPT listing. So if you can master SEO for one, you'll have a lot of the same understandings for the other. Because SEO, like search engine optimization, the principles are just how to get stuff found, right? And you're really, what you're doing is you're answering questions and solving problems for people, and you're helping these algorithms figure out what content best answers that query. So on TPT, it's which products match what they're looking for. On Google, it's what blog post or video post or podcast episode, because they bring up podcasts now, answers this question. So it's the same thing with social media posts. And I've been surprised lately that sometimes I'll search something and I'll see Instagram, which makes sense. I was actually just gonna, if you are here live, let's test this in real time. Tell me something that you're looking for. Maybe you're looking for clip art or something because you're a TPT seller. If I don't hear anything live, then I'll just try one just to see what comes up, because it'd be kind of interesting to see that in real time. Actually, let's do the 13 colonies one, because you were just talking about that. 13 colonies. So I'm typing that in. Okay, so I have Wikipedia come up. I have some YouTube videos come up. Kids Britannica. Okay, let's do 13 colonies.
Like I did like unit, or that way it kind of narrowed it down to like more aspects of it.
Yeah, so I just did 13 colonies project. So obviously you have TPT coming up as the second one. They have really big domain authority too, a couple of websites and blogs. Let's see. And let me see if I put ideas. Because what you put as the church, like this is exactly what teachers are doing, by the way, too. If they don't find what they need, they're going to keep putting more words down and get more and more. So see, now I'm getting ideas for billboard, for projects. Okay, I'm getting some Pinterest.
Nice.
Let's see. We haven't gotten any on Instagram yet. Let's see.
I think that's how teachers, like, they feel tired. Like, there's so much to do. I feel.
Yeah, I know. Everybody, they're like, 3 searches on out. Yeah, and that's possible too. But also, something to consider for Instagram and for TikTok is people, especially Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they are using the actual platforms as a search engine. I don't know if you guys knew that. Yeah, and I've also seen boomers and also like Gen Xers use Facebook to search for like restaurant hours and stuff. So that's another, yeah, it's a thing. I think I found myself doing it and been like, why did I do that? Why didn't I just Google it? But yeah, I'll go on Facebook sometimes and look for the page, because sometimes it's more updated, especially during like COVID when things were closing and stuff. It was so fluid. Google wasn't indexing quickly enough. So Facebook pages sometimes had more updated information because the business owner could just go on and say, hey, we're open today, or hey, we're still closed, whatever. So I would say, like, think about that. That's weird. Of course, I just said that Google's indexing and then I'm not getting results. So like that makes me look like, whoop. But yeah, the Google does index some. And if you set up your stuff for searching in Instagram itself, like that would be an interesting just product for you to do. Whatever your niche is, go to the Instagram search bar and search a term that you would want to come up for and see who's coming up. I'm not saying go and copy their profile, but look and see what are the keywords that they're using. Because keywords, I mean, you can do competitive keyword research.
I would even do the opposite. So mine, like with my math, like because I was so word problems and so anti-cubes, I would do purposely cubes, so that way I would show up on the people who are searching for cubes, because people are searching for cubes, right? Circle, underline, box, all that. Like that's what they're searching for, because that's what they see, and it's like this easy go-to thing. And I was putting that in my stuff constantly, just so that way I would show up in the anti-search of what I wanted people to do,
And
I don't know if that.
I think the hard thing about that, I think the hardest thing about this with marketing in general and with SEO is that you have to put yourself into the shoes of the person who's searching. Yeah. And that can be so hard, especially for TPT sellers, because most likely you are at least somewhat of an expert compared to the person who's searching. So you're thinking like 5 levels ahead. So you really have to go back to basics. Like, what is that person searching for? Like, I'll just give you an example. So for my math store, I have a lot of like multiplication, fact fluency exercises and stuff in there. And so for the longest time, I was trying to rank for terms like math fact fluency, multiplication tables, just fluency in general. And I realized that people were searching for times tables. And I was like, times tables? Who says that? I've never heard a teacher say times tables. But that's what they do, because they're in a rush and they're just like times tables worksheet.
Yeah.
So I started using that for some of my blog keywords, and I started seeing posts rank higher, because I was like, I wasn't really thinking, how is that person thinking? Yeah. So you need to get into the head of the person. And some of the best ways you can do that are just talking to your person, ask people to DM you, use the engagement features on Instagram, like stories and stuff and the stickers to get them to talk to you. And also just seeing like what kind of like, I guess, doing like keyword research, which I'm sure that that Jennifer could talk more about, like what she's doing to actually search for those words.
Sorry, I like blanked out. Not, I'm not. Just in terms of like social media, like having people amplify, like, how, like, so, I mean, you're saying like people are going in and they're searching, like literally searching in the search bar, or
Yeah.
or like multiplication tables, or like I was doing the Oregon Trail, like that's what we're doing in our social studies in 3rd grade, you know, trying to find something for the Oregon Trail, you know. I think I did used to use Pinterest a lot, and I don't use that as much anymore, and now I use Instagram more for that.
Isn't that funny? Yeah. So I'm gonna just like, I'm just curious. I'm gonna type in Oregon Trail and just see what I get here in the Instagram search bar. Since I'm using my desktop, sometimes you'll get different results on desktop than you will on your phone. So that's something else to come to. And see, even when I type that in, I get, like, just to let you know, that I'm getting some words that come up like Oregon Trail, Oregon Trailers. So like, they're asking like, are you looking for trailers in Oregon? Are you looking for Timberline Trail in Oregon? So that's really interesting. So I might then say Oregon Trail, teaching ideas, and I might search that way. So there's something else, there's something to be said about that. And also, people on Instagram and TikTok who are searching, they're usually not searching for resources at that point. So that's something else you have to think about too. They're looking for ideas, right? So the content that you create is showing that you know that what you're talking about, and you're sharing ideas. Your resource, though, is the idea. You know what I mean? So if you want to see an example of this, one of my clients is, and again, I'm saying like you can see my screen, but you can't, but by History Gal, I really like what we're doing with her content, because we're turning her resources into the actual solutions. We just had a reel that she's getting some traction on. That one, like I said, she's labeling in parts of Africa, but you'll see there's a whole story that pops up in the text over the reel. So she's getting the keywords in the actual caption, she's getting them in the reel herself, and with the hashtags that we use. So she's getting some traction on that, and just even going and saying, like, she's got the comments, people are talking in the comments, not just about the resource, but about the idea of like map sizing and things like that, and imperialism. So if you can start conversations around what you're actually solving for in your product, the better, because that will lead to more people than asking for the link. Because you don't just want to, this is another thing that's weird too. Some people will share the link in the caption even though they're not clickable. I don't know why people do that. Some people just do. But what you would love for them to do is like comment and then ask, and then say like, hey, I just sent you the link in case you want to check it out. So you've DM'd them, and then you've let them know in the comments that that you send it over. So those are just some like little tactical things, because that will get you more traffic on the resource as well, which means Instagram will push it out to more people.
How would you say, like, using Instagram to then build the funnel to like your TPT, or vice versa? What would be the benefit of, like, you know, like they say, like link your social medias in like your product description? You know, I don't know how many people are necessarily clicking over and be like, yeah, let me follow her on social media.
Yeah.
Unless check out this reel about this product and it goes to Instagram then, right? And then they can actually,
yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, yeah, it depends on how you do it. Like, I see Instagram as like a second point. When we're talking about like marketing funnel 101, usually, I should say in the past, Instagram has been the top of the funnel thing. Like, that's where you get discovered. It's not so much that way anymore. Usually Instagram is the second touch point. You know what I mean? Like, they're coming to you on Instagram after they saw you on a video on YouTube, after they heard you on a podcast, after they heard you at a summit, or after they got a resource from you. That is a creative idea, though, is you could make, say you have some video of your resource in action. You could have a video showing yourself using it and not saying this is how to use this resource, right? In the reel, you're like talking about the problem you're solving. So like in that example, we're talking about how maps are inaccurate, and here's how to make sure you're teaching your kids about geography, but you embed like a thumbnail of that on the actual resource page and say like, hey, go watch this reel to see the product in action, because the actual video shows how you're using it. Or like if I were to make a reel like that, I might say, here's how I teach my kids accurate geography. Or like here, I mean, that's like a lame one. Let me think of one in niche specific. Here's how I teach imperialism in Africa. And my tagline might be, imperialism is a tough topic to teach. Yeah. Because anyone will be like, yeah, it is, because it's a really sensitive topic, right? So if I'm showing how I do it, I'm giving teaching tips so that even if someone comes across the content and they don't buy it, they're still interested. that's going to be a win. And it's kind of a dual purpose one for me because now I can embed that in the product and have people go back to it. Also, I can create a blog post, which you're probably doing anyway if you're a TPT seller or you're at least someone who wants to have a blog. I know so many sellers who are like, I aspire to be a blogger, but I just can't stay consistent. But if you are going to write the blog, embed the reel or the carousel post or whatever it is in there because it's going to tell Google what your post is about. So it's like another, like some points for that. And also, anytime you have more than one medium in a blog post, that tells Google to rank it higher. So like I have blog posts in really competitive niches that are ranking highly, and that's not a brag on me. It's just because I've learned over time, if you have a YouTube video, if you have a podcast episode, if you have all these other mediums inside the blog post, that helps Google more quickly be able to index it. And I've had results in like 4 to 6 months instead of the typical 12 to 18 months because Google was able to find it out faster. So the more strategic you can be with all your content kind of connecting to each other and leading to each other, the better. I don't know if I would put an Instagram link, and I've heard both cases for this. I don't know if I put the link inside like the product descriptions because you want to keep them on the platform to buy the resource, but I would put it in a resource page and I'm trying to think of where else you would have it. And then, yeah, on the blog post too, because like you want them to opt in for your email, but you're also like, hey, why not have this additional touch point with me? Because they're more likely to buy from you the more they hear from you. That's just how it is. And they're going to have that connection with you over time.
And then you had something about notes to followers. What was that?
Yeah, so that is one thing I do. So if they're already following your store, okay, everybody uses this differently, but when I was a teacher, I did not just follow anybody's store because I was like, those little notifications would drive me crazy. So I only followed you if I really, really liked your stuff and I wanted to see it and I wanted to hear more from you. So when I would see people send a note to me and they say, hey, I just made this, like, whatever, showing how to do this, come follow me. You kind of use it as like a second email list and get them over. You have that additional touch point. And that would sometimes get me to go and follow them on Instagram or go look at their content. And the cool thing is then if I don't buy that resource right then, just by clicking on that content, whatever it is, I'm more likely to see their content later. And so I might have another second chance to go buy it. I also believe in creating mini funnels on Instagram. So one way you can do this is like that reel, for example, that we made for her. So she has the funnel there. So if they comment, she'll send them the link. What she's also doing is sharing it to her stories with the link sticker and kind of telling the story of the resource and all that. And she's adding it to highlights by the different topic. So like if you have imperialism is kind of a long word, so that's again not a great example, but if you have like one for like addition, subtraction, or whatever your topic is, or whatever your like kind of like the pillar of that content that it fits into, then people can go back and look through it later. So you could even say in the post like, hey, link in my bio or go find it at X highlight, and that gives them the other opportunity to buy other things. So what you're really just doing is just funneling them back to the same things over and over again and showing them the same thing in different ways.
That's interesting. I'm thinking about like, so if you're in your TPT data and you've identified, like these resources are the ones that I would like to focus on and track their conversion after I've done like X, Y, and Z, and then creating even that mini sales funnel as like a highlight or something in your Instagram that then does that and drives it that way as well. And I wonder even with using like the UTM codes and stuff to track it. I like data.
Yes. Yeah, and we do that. I do that with my clients. I mean, it's a long task. It's like 2 hours of me making UTM codes and putting them in a Google sheet. But we do it for that reason because we want to see, is this person's traffic? Because another thing I tell is, again, I might not be in my best interest, but I do tell people, like, I don't want you to keep paying me to do stuff for you if you're getting traffic better from somewhere else, right? Like, if you're doing everything right and you're finding that you're getting better results elsewhere, I'd rather you put your money and time into that. So like for this one, like we've seen, well, also we want to see what's working, right? So maybe reels aren't really effective for this particular person in niche, but maybe their carousel posts are really good at converting. Maybe it's their stories that are converting because they're showing up on camera. Like there are so many different factors. So I really do think if you are going to do social media, and again, I can hear someone saying like, no, that's too much work. If you are going to do social media, I do believe you should be using UTM links. But I think that's not social media specific. Honestly, I think if you're emailing, you should be using them. If you're putting them on websites, you should be using them. It's that one extra step that's going to really help you get good data. Because if you just said, oh, I got a lot of sales that day, but why? Did someone share your post in a Facebook group? Or your product in a Facebook group? Did you send an email that day? I mean, maybe it wasn't from the email you sent that day. Maybe it was from the email 2 days ago that they happened to open on that day. I mean, there's so many factors. So I think you should do an UTM link anyway. And also just because the websites don't always have like accurate traffic descriptions. Even TPT, they were doubling video views for the past year. So people are like, my views are down. Like, we probably had video previews that were, quadrupling your traffic and giving you false reports. And Pinterest isn't always accurate either. So I'm a big fan of using UTM codes because you can't rely on those sites always for accurate traffic.
For sure. I know. There's just so much to consider and just think about. So if you were to tell people like the one thing, like they're like, I'm overwhelmed by all the stuff, Brittany, I don't know what to do. Like, what would be the one thing in their Instagram game that you would push them to, or like say, like, just try this thing?
I would say if you're totally overwhelmed, I would say the two things that you might want to try are make sure you have an optimized bio, because definitely that is Googleable even if you don't create a lot of new content, and try a static feed. Mm-hmm. That's something I've been messing with lately for a couple of clients who are like, I don't want to post. If I do post, I want to post whenever I want. You can make your actual feed grid static, and you can actually have like a puzzle where you have all of the different pieces fit into one image, and then you can just create reels or stories as you want to about the resources that drive like the mini funnels to your products. And that's if you don't want to post regularly or you don't care about building a brand for yourself, social media. I will say if you're a personal brand, like if you go on mine, this is Brittany Verlenich, it's a little different, right? And also I'm selling content creation services, so I use that as my portfolio as well. But if you don't have to use yours like everywhere else. In fact, that's just good feedback in general. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing or what someone else says to be able to have success on Instagram. In fact, you can have the static feed and just show up in stories, or you can say, forget stories, I'm just going to do reels because those are fun to me. I think as long as you have a strategy and you know what your strategy is and you're following through with that, then it's good. And also, most importantly, I'd say before that, know what you really want to say, because one big thing I hear from a lot of marketing people is they make you focus so much on who is my ideal client avatar and what is my niche, and you will get stuck in there. You'll get stuck in there and you'll get stuck in inaction because you won't put it out there. So if you really don't know, start creating content first. You will figure out what you like and what resonates with people by just putting it out there, and then you can look at the data later. That's why I built a community first before I ever had a product for the travel brand, and I feel like that worked really well for me. Nice. So that's something else that you can try.
Nice. Like you said, like find what you love. Like, and that for me was, I liked taking and making my covers. Like I like making through the actual product itself. Like sometimes it would drive me nuts, and I would like rush through it, and then, but the cover, I always like, let me make the cover, and I was at the time like using like mock-ups and stuff, but then I remember just even like taking pictures of them and trying to lay it all out and make it look pretty. And I was like, I need to learn how to do more of this. And I know that's not something that everybody can do. Like, I mean, it is, the learning curve and stuff. And so, but I've seen like what can happen on taking those products, even like high converting products where like it just has a bunch of, I'm thinking of one that I'm working on right now, and it literally is just images of everything that's in it. It's not a great cover, but it sells really well. But I was like, what is it going to do if I can get this on there and have a good preview and have all that, and optimize it for that? Like, what is that going to do?
And I think that's really smart to start with the products that are already converting well anyway. And that's what I would suggest for social media. I think social media is a sales tool, but it's more so an amplification tool. So it's probably like driving more traffic to a product that's not converting highly is not going to help you as much as driving more traffic to a product that already converts well on its own, which makes sense, right? Because it's like, okay, you need to figure out what the problem is. Is it the cover? Is it the title? If none of those are the problem and it's really just you're not getting enough traffic to it, then that is a great resource to sell on social media. So like when I'm working with clients, I'll usually like, we'll go through and see like, what are their top performers by month?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of data digging at the beginning. So I'm looking at what is going to be the best use of their time, right? So like, and their money, because I don't want them to just spend unnecessarily. So we look at like, okay, March is coming up. So I'm having my clients put together a folder for me with photos, videos, basically a whole bunch of raw material that I will then use to make into posts and graphics and things. So you can do that for yourself if you're not quite ready to hire out for it yet. So just think, and if you can't think a quarter ahead, that's ideal. But if you can at least get a month ahead, that's great. So like, okay, next month is March, St. Patrick's Day, spring, right? Spring break, standardized testing is going to start happening. So anything of those related to those are going to be good. And so if you have products that already have high conversion, that would be good to put on social media right now. And even though people say you make a post and it lasts 24 hours, we're actually not seeing that. I'm seeing some of my clients get a second, third win for certain reels and carousel posts weeks and even months later.
Yeah.
So if the content itself is good,
yeah,
this isn't just a one-time thing. You're creating an asset that's going to keep driving traffic to your resource. And if you keep posting the post everywhere too, then you can get even more use and life out of it.
So we didn't get any questions, but hopefully people will send us some direct messages or whatever with questions, because you have to share and things like that. And it was good to just chat and hear, just to talk all the things Instagram and TPT.
Yeah, it is. I feel like the cool thing is once you get more practice doing one, I really do feel like the others become easier. You know what I mean? Like if you know the strategy of social media, and that's why when I first started talking about this stuff, I was talking about Facebook groups because that's what I knew really well. Yeah. But once I started getting to know the features on Instagram, I was like, oh, the strategy is basically the same, you know? So I was like, once you learn how to do one and you understand how they work and how people are thinking on the platform, everything else gets easier. Your email marketing gets easier, your funnels on TPT gets easier, and the cool thing with SEO is the principles are the same no matter where you go. So get better at one, and then you'll get better at the others too.
Yep, and don't feel like you have to do it all at once.
Right, totally.
Well, I appreciate you sitting down and chatting.
Yeah, it's good to talk with you.
For sure. And hope we'll do it again in the future.
Yeah. All right, I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.